This is Pastor Jim Womer at Capital Baptist Church. Thank you for joining our series, Conversations on Calm Parenting. My guest is Jonah Kabazi. I look forward to hearing what he has to say. Let's get into it. All right, well, welcome. I'm Pastor Jim, and I'm here with my good friend Jonah. And we just wanted to go over some of this material with you for this parenting seminar, and it's Calm Parenting University. And when I thought about calm parenting, I thought of no other more calm parents than Jonah. I didn't interview his family, but I've observed him from up close over all these years. We actually met in newcomers class here at Capital Baptist, and I've personally admired him as a father. He had. I'll let you. I'll shut up and let you talk about your family. Who's your family?
So my family, wow, what an introduction. So my name is Jonah Kabazi. I've got a lovely wife, Tina or Ola, as some may call her. I'm originally from Uganda. She's from Nigeria. Got three beautiful girls, Natalie, Naomi, and Noelle. And they are my pride and joy. They are who make me a parent.
Yeah. So when I met Jonah, he had his first two daughters, and since then, he you had Noel,
Noelle after that, yeah.
and then after all that, then Sarah and I had three boys. I have a 5-year-old son, James, 3-year-old Luke, and almost 1-year-old Samuel. So, uh, but anyways, I've observed the Kabazis and just their parenting style, and I've always respected it. So, when I thought about who I would like to do some of these questions and answers with, I thought of my good friend
Thank you.
Jonah.
Honored.
Um, so in this lesson one, it's called "Stop the Yelling, Lecturing, and Power Struggles."
Mm.
Um, he started off with the segment by talking about three questions that he heard. He called it a small, still voice. So the first question was, "What if your son is made like this on purpose?" So he was talking
Mm-hmm.
about how we try to change our kids and try to change their behaviors. So what if God was basically saying, "What if I made your son like this on
Yeah.
purpose?" And number two was, what if by spending all this energy trying to change your son, you're really frustrating
Yourself.
and God's purposes, yeah,
Yeah.
for your son. And thirdly, which is kind of what I want to talk about, um, is what if by trying to change your son, you're really the one who needs to change. So what if by trying to change your daughters, you're the one who really needs to change, or what if for me changing my
Yeah.
sons, I'm the one who needs to change. So how has being a dad changed you?
Being a dad, man, it's
I know that's a big question.
no, it is. It is and it's not. I think it's it it fundamentally changes who you are. Your whole way of thinking changes. Your priorities change. You know, the things that you found were important aren't really that big of a deal anymore. I mean, I'll start by saying I used to be a neat freak. I mean, I just everything had to be in its own place, you know. But if you come to our house now, I mean, I've still got crayon on the walls from when Natalie was a kid. You know, I used to clean up in the car constantly, you know, little, but, you know, three girls now, there's Cheerios here, Cheerios there. You know what? It's not that big of a deal. There's more important things in life than a clean car. There's more important things in life than crayon on the wall. And having kids to remind us, you know, that that's a clean house is good, but that's not where my joy is. A clean house is great, but that's not, you know, where I derive my joy. I derive my joy from Christ first and foremost, and through Him, and then also from my time with my kids, from being able to sit on the floor and being able to roll around on the floor and play with them. It's from coming from, you know, home from a tough day at work and just walking in and hearing, as I open the door, I can hear them pum, 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 running down the steps coming to greet me, daddy, 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 and just everything that I went through for the whole day just evaporates, and it just makes my heart just absolutely melt and explode at the same time. um, so that's my personal take on it. When we talk about being calm, I find that that is something that really resonates a lot with me. Um, that's one of the things that God gave me is I'm naturally a calm person. Um, I've been accused of having the patience of Job sometimes. Um, but other times, don't get it twisted. I do get frustrated and I do, flip my lid. But when it comes to parenting, you really, I cannot stress it enough. You really, really do need to work on um, staying calm. I think one of the things that as parents we fall into is raising our voices at our children, and you start telling them, hey, don't do that. Hey, I told you don't do that. Boy, didn't I tell you not to do that? I told you not to do that. And what I've learned and what I've found is what it teaches the kids is when you say, "Hey, I told you not to do that," you don't really mean it. "Hey, I told you not to do that." It's like, yeah, he's getting kind of serious, but he doesn't really mean it yet. And so they psychologically get to know that until you have that voice at that fever pitch, that you don't really mean
Mm-hmm.
what you're saying. So in our home, I may give you a warning. Well, I will give you a warning. Say, hey, look, we talked about this. We need to stop. We talked about this. We need to stop. Okay, come on. It's time to discipline. But it's all with that same level, same tone of voice, and I don't let my frustrations um, get out.
Well, I've never heard Jonah yell that loud, so uh, I'm still recovering. No, um, yeah, that was good. I mean, I've learned personally. I've learned so much, even just spiritually, from being a parent. So I used to wonder or struggle with, um, like if I messed up, like how could my parents forgive me or things like that, and just um, now my kids have done things I can't even tell you what I've
Yeah,
disciplined them for sometimes
yeah,
because, and I have a good memory, but there's just something about being a parent where, and I think that's how God thinks of our
yeah.
things is when we sin is He can kind of forgets about He forgives us and it's over. And anyways, I've learned a lot about my relationship with God just having kids and it's very rewarding, but it's very difficult. So
Yeah.
you spend a lot of time in prayer or a lot of time just kind of sometimes at your end with what to do about these situations, and God's really taught patience through that, and I
Amen.
wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. It's being a father is a great experience.
It's a joy. And I like what when you talk about the spiritual aspect of it, and approaching parenting as a believer. Um, Obviously there's a lot of fundamental differences, but I think um, for my wife and I, at least, the approach of what God has done for me and being able to see how much I absolutely love my girls and see how much my wife absolutely loves
Mm-hmm.
her girls, and how much I would do anything, you know, to try and make my girl's life as easy and as smooth as possible. How much more so the God who created me? It just like what you talked about. It gives me a much greater appreciation of God's love for us, of Jesus' sacrifice on the cross. Because I, as a parent, the sacrifices that I'm willing to make, without, and to me, they're nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're my duty. It's my duty as a parent to sacrifice for my children.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but to know that God also does that for us, it's a joy. It's a joy.
That's good. That's good. So he has this premise just to change gears. He has this idea that goes throughout the seminar uh, that in order to first control your child, he's big on teaching your children to control themselves. But before he could teach his child to control themselves, he had to first control himself. So what do you think about that idea?
That is 100% on the nose. It goes back to what I was sharing about raising your voice and so on and so forth. Um, but as the Bible says, love your neighbor as you love
Mm-hmm.
yourself. If you can't love yourself, And not saying that I'm not talking about being selfish and being self-centered, but if you can't truly appreciate yourself for who you are and for who God made you, then how can you appreciate someone else for who they are and for who God made them to be? And along the same vein, if I can't conduct myself in a calm, rational manner when I'm frustrated, how can I expect a 3-year-old to conduct themselves in a calm, rational manner, when they're frustrated, or 5 or 6 or 7 or 15 or 25 or however old they are. So um, it starts with me. It starts with asking the Lord, Lord, work in my heart. Lord, please help me to make sure that I'm in a place where I need to be, so that I can put my children in a place where they need to be, where you want them to be, Lord, where you want them to be.
Yeah, I identified with your example of raising your voice because that happens. And I think for me it happens because you said it starts in your heart. And for me, if I'm being honest, the reason why I raise my voice is because I'm maybe lazy or I'm too into what I'm doing at the moment to actually
Mm.
sit down and figure out what's going on. And so I do fall into that where my voices will get louder, or I'll just get to the point where I'll say it quietly, say it quietly, say it quietly, and then, you know,
Blow up.
um, and it's really just because I'm not stopping I'm not putting down my phone or putting aside my
Mm.
work or putting aside, whatever it is that has my attention at that moment. And it's something inside me. And so, um, I totally agree that we have to be focused on ourselves. It's kind of like the verse that says you have to don't worry about the speck in your brother's eye when you have a log in your eye. And
Yep.
so, like I resonated
Yeah.
with what you were saying about how can if I'm not calm, how can my 3-year-old be calm, right? So
Yeah.
that's really good. So I just to wrap up this segment, I just wanted to ask you if how would you advise someone how to lead their home with calmness and confidence? You've
Woo.
always struck me as
Yeah.
someone who's a calm parent.
Yeah.
You don't have those tend to have these things out in public where you're having to yell at your kids or whatever. So you're very calm, and
Yeah.
you've always led your family. At least when I'm around, you've always led them with confidence, but
Yeah.
firmness. So what advice would you give to somebody?
Woo. I,
Another big question.
no, it is, but it starts with self, and it starts with looking at yourself and looking inwardly and saying, "Hey, what are my hot button issues?" And dissecting those and, like, what is it about that really bothers me?
Mm-hmm.
Why does it really bother me? And once you start to parse that, and you're like, you know what? Is it really that important that it should bother me to that point?
Mm-hmm.
When somebody cuts me off on the highway, what is it about cutting me off that really bothers me? Is it because I feel threatened, or is it because my safety has been jeopardized, or is it because I feel now I have to slow down and I'm not going to get to my destination on time? What is it about that situation that has really bothered me, that has made me just absolutely lose control? And once you can sort of dissect that, and then you can sort of start to say, Lord, can you help me work on these issues? And I'm not trying to oversimplify things, but I think in certain cases we overcomplicate things also.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes things can be a lot simpler once we just slow down and just, as the saying goes, eat the elephant one bite at a time.
So you slow down and eat the elephant one
One
bite
bite
at
at a
a
time.
time. Well, I appreciate you coming in and sitting with me and talking about these things. And you are a father in the church who I
Amen.
respect. And so
Thank you.
I appreciate your friendship. And I look forward to discussing some more topics with you in future videos. So
Thank you.
thanks.
Amen.
Thank you for joining our discussion today. I hope it was a blessing. For more information about our church or to connect with our online campus, please join us at capitalbaptist.org.